All right, and we are back. Episode 3 of the TheSoonerZone Podcast with Cole Thompson and Jefferson Simmons. We're live. What's up, Cole?
Jeff, how's it going, man?
Things are going pretty good. It's a good day to be a Sooner right now. Got the bowl win. Everyone's feeling happy, feeling good. New era of OU football is upon us.
Yeah, that was a very exciting game that we had this last couple of days ago, and you were down there, right?
Yep, I was there. That
Yeah,
was that was an incredible experience, and yeah, waiting for that bowl game. That was like the longest month of my life for everything that was packed into that little bit of time off between now and Bedlam. But yeah, it was awesome. My aunt and uncle are affiliated with Valero and graciously invited my family down, and man, it was an experience of a lifetime. You joined me in Colorado last year, and you got to meet at least my uncle, and they are
yeah,
very, very gracious hosts, and it was awesome. It was so fun. There were a lot of different events leading up to the game, and yeah, we'll get into some of that stuff. And no, it was great. We got there. Let's see, I think Friday. Now,
yeah.
was that right? We got in 2 days
Was
before the game. So,
Sunday.
yeah. Okay. So, no, but it was fun. There was 2 days before the game, we had like a luncheon. Stoops got up there and talked. Oregon's coach talked. All the captains were there. It was fun. The bands were in the ballroom, kind of taking turns going back and forth playing, and oh, it was great. We had Caleb Kelly, Jeremiah Hall, and Pat Fields up there. Each took a turn talking. I just, I mean, you've seen their stuff on social media and everything, but hearing those guys speak in person, answering questions off the cuff, nothing prepared. I mean, they were all so eloquent. You can tell they're intelligent guys. Exactly who you would want to be captains and the leaders of your team. Those guys were awesome. I don't think that there's a set of captains probably in the whole country and not a group of captains that I remember in the history of OU football that were that impressive just to hear them speak. And granted, being in person, probably hit you a little bit harder. But those guys, they were
Right.
really cool. And seeing their camaraderie with back and forth with Coach Stoops, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I was seeing some clips here and there on Twitter, like Jay Hall asking Caleb some questions, off the cuff. It was really cool, really fun to watch them interact.
Yeah, so there was an ESPN guy there at the lunch, and it was his kind of job to MC. He was going back and forth asking some questions, but Oregon, one of their captains, I guess, has a podcast as well, and he wants to get into broadcasting and media after he's done with football. And so the ESPN guy handed him the mic. He goes, "Hey, let's get some practice. Ask your teammates some questions." And he went down the row, and then when it was time for the OU guys, I can't remember if it was Pat or Caleb, but they're like, "Hey, Jay Hall has a podcast too. Let him answer back." And obviously biased, but I think Jay Hall did a way way better job. So, but no, that was fun. And then at the end, the guys left, but Caleb and Jay Hall both took a second and signed my shoes. So that was fun getting to meet them. Got a picture with Caleb, and yeah. But after that, that night there was a little Valero event, which was fun. Good food and everything. Actually, the first night we were there, we went to a pep rally right there on the Riverwalk, and I think you sent me some pictures. Yeah, from there the OU account posted
Twitter
those.
page, yep.
Yeah, and that was cool. Just seeing all the players come by on the boats and the coaches get up on stage and talk. It was funny just to see the players going back and forth. I don't know who it was. It was one of the guys on the defense. I don't want to say his name if it was the wrong guy. I thought it was Woody. But the Oregon guys are floating by, and he calls him out. He's pointing at him. He goes, "Oh, I know you're a walk-on." And this dude acts like he wants to hop off the boat and come get him. And it's fun just to see a little bit of back and forth between the teams like that. But that was really cool as well. So,
Yeah, it's some
but
fun
yeah,
banter.
yeah, it was fun. So there was, that leading up to the game. There was one night we got done with our festivities like at 9:30, and my two youngest siblings aren't even 21 yet, and so it's like, okay, well, if you and I were there, it'd be fun to go down, hang out at the bars and whatever. I was like, what are we gonna do? And my sisters went back to the room with my dad, and I bought my little brother just one of those white Valero Alamo Bowl footballs. Had the date and the teams on it. And
Yeah.
I told him, I said, hey, why don't you snag your ball? Let's just sit in the lobby at the hotel and see if any of the players walk by or anything like that. I didn't tell you this story last night. I wanted to record it. So I cannot believe how big of idiots we are. So I'm sitting there, like we're walking down, and I'm like, hey, you should have a plan. Who would you like to sign the ball? Like, you don't want just anyone to sign it. Let's just think about it for a second. And he said, well, obviously, Caleb Williams would be awesome, to get the quarterback to sign it, but that's a risk. If he leaves, he's got a Spencer Rattler ball in his room right now. And so he goes, I don't really, want Caleb's signature on it if he leaves, but he'd probably be my first choice. And I said, well, after that, and he goes, well, after that, probably not a player like one of the coaches to sign it, either Coach Venables, if we would see him, or, we're big DeMarco Murray fans. And so I was like, okay, hey, that's what I wanted him to do, establish a plan so that way when the moment was there, you could act on it. So we go sit down, and we hadn't even been there for 5 minutes, like maybe 3 minutes. And, I saw Joe Castiglione while we're walking through the lobby and just stopped, shook his hand, was like, hey, we live for OU football. Thank you for, coming in clutch and saving the program, and how thrilled we were to have Coach Venables as the hire. So then we go sit down, and not even 5 minutes later, we're playing on our phones, and I look up and I just see this big hair walking right past me, and I was just like, are you serious? And I just elbow my brother, and Caleb walked right past us. And it was a big hotel, like, he could have been anywhere, and he walks right by our table that we were sitting at. I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect. And I was just like, he had already walked past, and I just couldn't, like, I was just shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was like, we are such idiots not to have seen him coming. And I just looked at my brother, and I think he was, in the same state of like, are you serious right now? And he just looked at me, and by the time we realized or thought to do something, he was already on the escalator going upstairs, and we didn't want to chase after him and bother him. And there's a little velvet rope, so we looked at each other and we were just laughing. We're like, we are idiots. But then there was this guy that walked in, and he was a little blitzed, you can tell. And I made the mistake of saying hello to him. But he was out trying to get pictures with players. And he pulled up his Twitter, and I don't know what this dude is, like some huge famous person groupie. But he had like pictures with every famous athlete you could possibly think of. And he had 184 tweets. And we went through, and he made me scroll through, and he told me the story of every single one. And I was just like, oh, okay. And so finally, after like a half hour, he left. And I'm just looking at my brother like, wow, that was a lot. And we're just thinking, I mean, by then it was 10:30, 10:45. Like, maybe we'll just go back to the room. And so we started getting up, and then through the sliding doors, here comes DeMarco Murray and his wife. And I was like, oh, are you serious? I mean, it was just perfect. And so I was like, hey, coach, could we get you to sign a ball for my little brother? And he just didn't even acknowledge me, like just kept right on walking. And I was like, oh, crap, like don't meet your idols or anything like that. And I just looked at my brother. I was like so disappointed. And he just walked around the corner, and then he motioned to me. He goes, "Yeah, hey guys, come over here." And I think he just didn't want a big line forming, right there in the middle of the lobby. But he
Gotcha.
walked over there. He was like, "Hey, yeah, what's your name?" And then I had one of those cleats in my backpack. And so he signed that too. And, he asked us both what our name were. And his wife was super nice. Like, we weren't going to bother him for a picture or anything. And she was like, "Hey, you guys ought to get in there and get a picture with him." And so we did. And, oh, man, we were just so hyped. They were so nice. And went back to our room. Tyler got his ball signed. And it was a successful mission. So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Really cool.
it was really cool. Just those handful of events actually leading up to the game, and we were nervous. My uncle was getting notifications from the committee and everything. Oregon was 10 players away from COVID testing and opt outs of us not having a game, and so that was pretty nerve wracking. But at that point, I was like, obviously, I want the game to happen so bad, and that's why we were there. But just having this cool things leading up to it, even if it would have got canceled, it was still so fun. But
Right.
yeah, then to go through the game, have that fun experience, and then we had field passes there for the end, and so to be out there, I was standing right by Marcus Major while they were doing the trophy presentation, and my uncle stoops the trophy, and I hear like a loud whistle right behind me. I turn around, it's Toby Keith, and then all the coaches were walking around. I got to meet Coach Gundy, Coach Venables, got another picture with DeMarco, and then just pictures with several of the players. I think took one with Marcus Major, Drake Stoops. That was one I really wanted. And then it was fun just to see Caleb out there, celebrating with his team. It was just incredible. But yeah.
That's awesome.
But then the game itself was pretty sweet as well. It's always fun getting to go head to head with one of those non-conference opponents just to see kind of how you stack up.
Yeah. I thought we fared really well in that game. Up 30-3 at halftime. Thought we took care of business and kind of put it to them.
That's what I mean. I could barely believe it at half. I know Oregon had a more depleted roster than we did, but
Right.
On the last episode, you and I were kind of wondering, hey, with all the defensive guys opting out, what's the defense going to look like? And if you would have asked me if I thought that Oregon would only have 3 points on the board at half, I would not have guessed that. So that was a big success. And Grant, they went on a little run in the second half, but it never felt like the game was in question.
Right. Yeah. I think we kind of talked in our last podcast about how we needed to handle the run game and, running for 322 yards. I think we did just that. We had Brooks and Gray both averaging over 10 yards per carry, and then Major averaging almost 5.5. That's pretty incredible for your three backs.
That was nuts. And Marcus came in for kind of crunch time, put it away, and a lot of his runs were just right off tackle, right up the middle, keep the clock going. So that was really impressive, and it was kind of fun to see. There's so many times this season that you felt like Coach Riley, and he would say this, he knew the run was the foundation of his offense. Get the run game going, and I'll set up everything else. But it was like he didn't have the patience or something. If it wasn't working right from the jump, he abandoned it so fast. And to see Coach Gundy, even on a few of them that didn't really pop right away, and he was just committed to it. It's like, hey, we're going to run the ball. And eventually, man, it looked great seeing those guys running all over the field. And it opened stuff up for Caleb. That long ball to Mims, I mean, that was like a flood of memories. Kyler to CD, Baker to Hollywood, Baker to D.D. Westbrook. It's like, man, where's that been? So
yeah, I think that was fun. It was off the play action even. The kid just kind of drew the defense up and just lobbed it over the top. It was a perfect pass, 55 yards. right in the cradle.
That's what you want. That's what you want. Why you run the ball. So why you want to run the ball effectively, because it's going to open those things up. And man, Caleb's got some weapons that, obviously everyone knows what Marvin Mims is capable of. Mario Williams had a really strong season. Stunk that his touchdown was called back. That would have been crazy. Him running to the end zone with no helmet on. But you understand that for player safety, and although it wasn't in question in that particular play, there's plenty of times the helmet gets ripped off. You need that play to die right away. But,
right.
And then Jalil Farouk had a big game. One of Caleb's compadres from way back east to their younger days. And I don't know, they didn't even have Theo there. Next year, if all those guys are back, that could be a deadly receiving core. And Stoops, can't forget about him, had a big touchdown.
Did. His one catch of the game for a touchdown.
And there were so many moments that day that were just, so emotional and so fun. That wasn't my favorite OU football game of all time, but that was my favorite OU football memory. That day, to see Stoops back on the sideline when, none of us knew when he played Auburn in that Sugar Bowl that it would be his last game. To get to give him a proper send-off and goodbye, to see him down there, to see his son have one catch for a touchdown. That was so cool. And then, at the end of the game, for my uncle to be up there, for Stoops to have the passing of the torch with his visor, putting it on Brent's head.
Yeah.
That was like the most special Sooner moment I think I could possibly have. That was so fun.
Yeah. I think that the way that they came in, and it was like a month, the way that the program bought into him and the staff that he put around him, it was so cool. And then we just came out and really blew the doors off Oregon in the first half. And there was even like Perry on Winfrey tweeting, he's like, I think we know what the problem was, or something like that. That's funny. But we were spreading. 8 guys got involved in the receiving game. We had several guys running the ball really well. Caleb running the ball really well. It was just whatever we wanted to do, we were doing it. And our offensive line, that obviously gives a lot of credit to the offensive line, because you can't run the ball without those guys. But
no doubt.
And it was so fun. So fun seeing it all click.
Yep. And then the other thing that was nice, even with the opt-outs, is getting to see some of the young guys have some action. I thought Ethan Downs played really well. Danny Stutzman balled. And TJ Graham had a tough game. But it's one of those things, like, I'm not worried about those guys. To have that kind of game preparation when your entire defensive staff is gone, it's like, I'm surprised there weren't more holes like that. And so DJ had a good year. He's a great player. One game got away from him, but I think he's going to be fine in the long run. I saw right before we started recording that DTY has declared he's going to the draft. That one kind of surprised me. I thought he might be back another year. I was hoping he would be, but we got a lot of guys. We're gonna have a lot of draftees this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Broyles had a really good game too. He had the pick cut off, hit one of the other guy's head and popped up in the air. But he made some big tackles as well, and having our older guys step up, send themselves off really well. That was really fun to watch, and getting those young guys experience, like you mentioned, that was really cool.
Yep,
too.
Man, I was happy for Justin. He had a really tough game when we played LSU in the playoff, and for him to have a really big bowl game, that was great for him. So, but it's gonna. The roster's gonna look a lot different next year on the defensive side, especially with those guys leaving. But Venables has shown that he already is not going to, just stay in his way like how Dabo wasn't utilizing the transfer portal. We've already picked up a couple interesting recruits from there, and hopefully if, a few more guys are available, we fill a few more spots there so that way we don't have 9 freshmen on the field next fall.
Yeah, but even with the recruits that we're bringing in, if we have to go to their freshmen, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
No,
Well, that's the thing,
well.
We did have some big contributors in this year's team. I mean, just from the freshman class, Mario Williams had a lot of big catches. Caleb,
Right.
obviously. Danny Stutzman played well. Ethan Downs. I'm sure I'm missing a few of the other guys, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be a few freshmen that you expect to come in if Kobe gets on campus, if Jaron ends up being a Sooner. You expect both those guys to come in and make an immediate impact, and from what I've seen, they sure look like they would be able to. But
yeah,
speaking of that, I got to meet Kobe at the game. He tweeted out his location, where he was sitting at, and I have him on Snapchat. I was going back and forth with him a little bit. I tried to get him to come up and sit with me. I was like, hey, we got some food and stuff. You got to come up. But he was taking a lot of pictures with everyone coming by. So we went down there and got to meet him, and he took a picture with my little cousin. So that was cool. Fun to meet Kobe. Yeah.
We have to respect that he decided to stay there for more fans.
Yep.
But then cool to have
Man
him
of the people
too. Yes. That's good.
Well, man, before we move on, I want to talk a little bit about Coach Stoops. I mean, what he did this past month, it was just so fun to see. And then every time that he was talking to the media too, you could just tell that he was having pure fun in his role because, there wasn't any pressure. It's like, okay, what were your expectations when a coach just leaves in the middle of the night? Stoops has to show up off the golf course and take control of the team. It's like he couldn't disappoint anyone. Everyone was so grateful for what he did, but then to come and have a big win like that, I mean, to be able to coach his son one time and lead the Sooners, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to see him with his guard down. He's like, what are they going to do, fire me? So just
with a rock and roll tequila bath.
Yeah, just let it hang out, see his true colors, and I thought it was really fun to see all that.
Yeah, I remember sometimes I would watch his post game or media availabilities, and you could tell sometimes the reporters would get on his nerves or something. He'd give him a little bit of a short response, but he was very much more laid back, and maybe that comes from him being in the media this past year too, seeing things from the opposite lens. But that was a lot of fun just to see him kind of come loose a little bit. But I mean, even beyond that, just to talk about how he is, the program guy, and I know that's what the message he was conveying to the team so much is OU football is bigger than any one person. But I was trying to think about a coach that embodies the love for his program more than Bob Stoops, and I can't think of anyone. I mean, we've seen a lot of big egos and money and everything and no loyalty. There is Bob Stoops, who left the program to Lincoln Riley when he had arguably his second or third best team ever while he was, the football coach, leaving in Baker Mayfield, who's going to go on and win a Heisman. I mean, he had everything in front of him. And to walk away from all that is just an incredible act of unselfishness. And then it, stares us right in the face again at the post game. He's sitting there accepting the trophy, and the reporter asks, hey, what does this mean for the future of OU football? And when all the attention's on him, it's, hey, I'm going to deflect. Where's Coach Venables at? And brings him up there. And it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the program. It's about the future. I just thought that was so special, and it was a nice window into just the class act that Bob Stoops is.
We are very blessed that he was able to step into that situation, and just like you said, the way he carries himself, the way he respects the university, respects the future coaches, and most of the past coaches. It's awesome. It's great to have someone like him around.
I saw someone tweet, they said, "Screw it, let's give Stoops a second statue." That'd be awesome.
Yes, I saw a tweet of like this giant Stoops statue standing over the stadium. They're like, "This needs to be happening."
Was that a tattoo maker at it? I can't remember. His
I
are
think
so
so.
funny.
I think it was. Yeah.
He's very talented with those. I'm like, how does he even think of stuff like that?
Yeah, he's really good at that stuff.
One other thing I wanted to talk about. So after the game, I got Danny Stutzman to sign my field pass. I think I'm going to give that away on Twitter, and we can announce the winner here on the podcast. But he's a fan favorite. That dude's personality, I love just hearing him talk and the shenanigans he pulls. But yeah, he's someone that I would love to get on the podcast too, and maybe we can dive into that a little bit as we transition out of football season. Sooner fans are still very excited with the new era of OU football. I definitely want to be still talking about it, hearing other people talk about it, staying hyped. I will be still recording shows as any recruiting news comes up. We're going to have, obviously the rest of the guys come through on signing day. We'll do a show for that. But then after that, we thought we would try to do some, just get some guests on, either recruits, current players, and I DM'd a few guys that, were on the team at one time and now have either graduated or had their NFL career. I thought it'd be fun to do a catching up with the Sooners segment. And so hopefully we can have a fun lineup there and ask those guys some questions so that way we can still be bringing some content in the off season.
Yeah, we've been having some of these conversations with some of these guys, and it sounds like we're going to be able to bring a few on, and I'm excited to see how that all lays out and plays out.
Yeah, and if anyone has someone in particular that they'd love to hear from, feel free to shoot that in our DMs. I'm the TheSoonerZone on Twitter and Instagram. Cole is Sooners Insider on Twitter. And yeah, we're always love to get some feedback. I got some nice DMs on Instagram that people who listen to our first few episodes, and we can appreciate some constructive criticism as well. So we're going to try to make this thing a little bit more professional, get a fun intro recorded one of these days. But yeah, till then, keep doing this.
Yep, making do with what we got for now. It'll keep growing.
Anything else we ought to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I think that was probably all that we really had so far. I saw the crystal ball, the most recent. We have a couple of 5-star receivers that are 100% OU, Brandon Ennis, and I can't remember.
Yeah, that was, I hadn't heard anything about him for a while. And when you told me that, I was pleasantly surprised. I did not expect for us to get Brandon Ennis back. But if he would come, man, that would be huge. And I bet
Jalen Hale
we
is
likely.
the other one.
Okay. Well, I haven't followed his recruitment at all on Brandon. I'm guessing we don't get any sort of hard announcement on that until after we hear Caleb announce his decision.
Right.
On that note, before we get out of here, I did put up an Instagram story just asking people if they had anything they'd like us to talk about on today's episode. I did get a couple responses. Someone asked if we had any idea if Caleb Williams was staying yet. All we know is what he's told us after the game was, he was focused on his schoolwork. When all that news broke, getting ready for finals, when he got done with that, he's focused on winning a bowl game with his teammates, one last ride there. He's currently on vacation with his family, and he's going to make a decision while he's with them. OU is going to get the last opportunity to sell him, I feel pretty confident that OU has the most to offer at this point. At the end of that press conference, he stood up and he was away from his mic, but you could hear him say, I freaking love you, OU fans. I love you so much. And so he's been active on Twitter, wishing all the guys well. That he's the most popular man in Oklahoma. He's going to get great NIL money if he stays. He's got an incredible supporting cast around him if he stays at OU. To me, it doesn't make sense for him to go anywhere else. I thought possibly Oregon when they hired Dan Lanning. Lanning was heavily involved in Caleb's recruitment to Georgia, but the fact that they took Bo Nix, not that I think Bo Nix would even beat Caleb out in a quarterback battle, but if you're Caleb, why go somewhere that it's even a question? I mean, he is obviously the guy at Oklahoma. Yeah, to me, I mean, it's easy as an OU fan to see things from that lens, but I don't see why Caleb would leave.
Yeah, I saw maybe some speculation that George is trying to offer him a lot of stuff to come down there still, but like you said, I don't see him going anywhere else. He walked off the field with the cowboy hat on, and he seems to love it here a lot. But we also got to respect his decision either way. So
definitely, and I mean the other thing about Georgia is, OU had a guy committed to this team before. We brought Caleb on, and his name is Brock Vandegrift. He was a 5-star. At one point, he was the number one quarterback in the class, and Caleb eventually overtook that spot, I believe. But he decommitted from OU and flipped to Georgia, and he's down there. And so another 5-star guy in Caleb's class, going to be the same age, battling for that spot. Caleb's clearly not afraid of competition to come in behind Spencer Rattler, and obviously was good enough to take that job from him. But, man, if I'm him, I got my guys around me right here, got a good thing going into next year. To me, it makes the most sense to stay.
Yep, I think so too. Anything else that they asked for?
Yeah, I got one more question on here. My boy Javari, who won the one pair of the cleats on the Twitter giveaway, asks, what the running back room is going to look like next season with Kennedy Brooks going to the draft. Just starting the game, I thought it was interesting that Eric Gray started versus Oregon, and it felt like that was hey, you're going to be the guy next year. Let's put you out there and get it started right away. And I fully expect him to be the starter. I'd like to see a lot of him out of the backfield, catching some balls the way DeMarco Murray used to when he was playing for us. I think that every Sooner fan can agree that they'd like to see a lot of Marcus Major next year. That was extremely frustrating that he wasn't more incorporated in the run game towards the end of the season once he was eligible. Every time he has had the ball in his hands, he's been impressive. So I expect him to kind of be a tandem feature back along with Gray, splitting carries in a similar way as Kennedy and Eric did this year. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that those two proved themselves well in the bowl game.
Yeah.
And all year long.
After those two guys, we got Gavin Sawchuk, highly touted recruit out of Colorado coming, going to be a freshman, and Jamonte Barnes is hopefully going to be signing with us here at the next signing day. So there'll be a talented freshman running back room, 2 experienced guys kind of leading the way, and we still have Knowles back there too, who didn't see a lot of action, but man, you and I both liked him in the spring game, and I think he did have one touchdown this year during the regular season. So, but those guys will handle a majority of the run game, and then we did see Caleb running the ball quite a bit this year, and I felt like Caleb had the perfect amount of run incorporated into his game this year. I never want to see another OU quarterback rush for 1,000 yards like Jalen Hurts did. You see that and turn around and have Trey Sermon transfer to Ohio State because the quarterback was the feature running back of the team.
Main guy.
That was frustrating for me. We're Oklahoma. We're RBU. We recruit running backs to run the ball. Quarterback's going to sling it around and run it when he needs to. I like a steady dose of QB run about as much as Kyler and Caleb both ran. I mean, those guys were electric when they did it, but it wasn't, 25 carries a game. So,
right. Speaking of Kyler, I saw a video on Twitter today of Evers. He was working with Kyler's dad.
Man,
Nick Evers.
Kyler's dad, that dude, he can develop some guys. I mean, I think even after Kyler was gone, don't quote me on this because I'm not 100%, but I think Lincoln was kind of sending some of the high school recruits to work with him before they'd get on campus down there in Texas. That dude knows football, and obviously developing his son.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely quote you on that.
So, beyond that, that was all the questions I had on the Instagram thing. I just posted it right before we hopped on, but I'll still save the other responses as they come in, and we can cover those on next week's episode. Maybe next week we'll have a guest on. We will tweet that out if we record a few episodes with a few guys, and make sure to subscribe so that way you don't miss those. We'll be talking to a couple of recruits and hopefully a couple of guys on the team. So,
yeah, maybe a transfer.
Stay tuned.
So, all right.
We good from there?
I think we're good.
All right, that concludes the third episode of Sooner Cole. That concludes the third episode of the SoonerZone Podcast. For Cole Thompson, I'm Jefferson Simmons. We're out of here.